Hello and welcome back to the KillerHERTZ Mercedes channel, and I hope you're safe and well. Now today you join me once again in my 2007 G55 AMG compressor G Wagen. Now, I've owned this for the best part of a year now, and it's dawned on me that apart from the odd how-to video and the initial introduction to my G Wagen, I've never actually made any content on what it's like to actually live with in the UK. So this is going to be my living with a G Wagen video. So first things first, if you're out there and you're actually considering getting a G Wagen yourself, now the most important thing you do is get yourself in the mindset that you can't compare a G Wagen to a standard car. You've got to think of it as a truck or even an agricultural vehicle. Now the G Wagen is what they call a ladder on frame construction, so it's actually got the chassis separate to the body sits on top of it, as opposed to a standard car which has got what they call a monocoque, where the actual chassis is part of the car. As a result, there's little to no torsional rigidity, added to which the G Wagen's got an antiquated, what we call a recirculating ball joint steering system. A result of all this is that the G Wagen's got virtually no handling whatsoever. How you move the steering wheel in relation to how the car moves is so vague, sometimes it feels like you're not even controlling the vehicle. So for example, I'm doing now 55 miles an hour, and then I can go like that, and there's no movement whatsoever in the car. If you're going round a junction, you almost have to do a full lock just to get the car going round. I'm not trying to put you off getting a G Wagen, but you do need to be aware of all this when you go into it. Otherwise, you're going to be quite disappointed. Now, once I bought the G Wagen, for the first 100 miles or so, there was a few brown pants moments where I may have been going a little bit enthusiastically, shall we say. Well, the car is 500 horsepower after all, and I might have underestimated a sharp bend or late braking. Added to which, with the actual steering issues which I've just mentioned, the actual braking on this, the brakes do feel somewhat inadequate. However, you always do stop. They always do stop. It's just that you have to really pump your foot down in order to get it to stop. Now, as long as you go in the mindset of these issues I've just mentioned, and then you actually go look at a G Wagen for what it is, it's a cryogenically preserved 70s relic, which Mercedes over the generations have done everything they can to keep it up to date and relevant. You know, the interior of this got lovely plush seats. You've got obviously the power of an AMG engine. I mean, it's got a 5.5 litre V8, but look, if I put my foot down, I mean, that probably cost me about £10, but other little technologies, you've got full ABS, cruise control, all the bits of bells and whistles that you'd expect on a modern car. But there's only so much they can do. At the end of the day, this is a car that was born in the late 70s, and it does show in some respects. Now let's talk about handling and manoeuvring. So manoeuvring this on UK roads, what's it like? Well, first of all, I have to identify the elephant in the room, which is that I have bought a left-hand drive model, which obviously in the UK, being right-hand drive, it's an added complexity to it. Now, generally, when you've got a left-hand drive, the main issues are overtaking and changing lanes and so on, especially on a motorway. Now, these issues do still exist with this, but a G Wagen is so small, the actual footprint is the same apparently as a Mark 1 Focus. Now, the perfect example of this is I'm touching now the passenger window. It's so narrow, a G Wagen, you just don't expect that. Now, of course, you've obviously got the height issues, which, you know, the G Wagen is a hell of a lot higher than your average car, about 2 meters or so. So much so that I can even look over the roof of an SUV in front of me, and it's still fine, great visibility. But you still have the issue when changing lanes. You know, you look down, it does help that the rear windows are quite low down in the body, but you still have that kind of issue, especially with overtaking. Otherwise though, it's a lot easier than I thought. Now, before I bought the car, I bought one of those litter grabbers things, because I thought if I went to an underground car park or to a McDonald's, I'd need to use that to reach across and get the ticket or the burger. But as far as McDonald's is concerned, I can use my card as well as actually grab the burger and the drink from the member of staff with no issues at all. I don't even need to remove my seatbelt. It's not the same for a car park though. So a car park, I do actually need to undo my seatbelt, but I can lean across. It's not a case that you actually have to get out of the car, as opposed to some other left-hand drive cars. That aside though, driving this on UK roads, no problem whatsoever. Great visibility, and with the 2 wing-mounted extra lights you get in the top corner, you can position it exactly. You can work out exactly where the edges of the car is, which I guess originally they were made for off-road capability, so you can see where you are going between the rocks and the trees. Now I say I've had this for the best part of a year now, and have I actually taken it off-road? I'm ashamed to say no. Main reason being that I live in East Anglia, part of the UK, which if you're not from the UK is one of the flattest areas there is. There's no hills or mountains or anything. During the winter I did take it off a few sort of quite muddy lanes, but you know, lanes that you wouldn't be able to drive a normal car down, but they weren't what you'd say off-road. Unfortunately, I'm one of these people that just uses it on the road as a bit of a, I guess, a bit of a poser-mobile. Speaking of which, I've never been in any car, apart from maybe a supercar, that gets so much attention. Now, not from everyone, I guess maybe under 30s or so. Those who know. You'll get people actually commenting, actually thumbs up, virtually all positive.
Cheers, mate.
I've had people in the supermarket, for example. I came out a couple of weeks ago and there's a lady taking photos of my car. Initially, I thought she might have bumped into it and she was just taking, you know, some photos for insurance reasons. Upon questioning her, she just went, "Oh, I've never seen one in public. I just want to take a couple of pictures," which I've never had that before. On the flip side of that, though, maybe people sort of 30 plus, you do get the odd kind of glare from, especially when you're driving it in cities. It's a classic gas guzzling, pointless vehicle, especially in the town I live, which is a particularly anti-car, should we say. So let's talk about running costs. So apart from obviously getting it serviced and MOT, the annual test, the only thing I've actually had to pay for this was the secondary air control valve, which was about £35 or so, which I have made a video on. If you check the link above, you can go and see the how-to for that. So that's, as I say, it cost me about £35 or so. Otherwise, there's only been 2 issues regarding running costs. Now, first of all, back in February, a deer ran out, middle of the night, deer ran out in front of me. I did slam the brakes on, but as I mentioned before, it isn't the most agile at stopping, and trying to steer around a deer heading out on the road, I just went for it. Unfortunately, I clipped this corner of it and it was killed outright. A result of this though is that the front bumper had got a little crack in it and the front grille, the grille mesh had destroyed. Now, the hardest part was actually tracking this down. My local Mercedes dealer wasn't particularly helpful in finding that. But however, once I got the part number, they were able to source it. And if I remember correctly, it's about £70 or so. And the other issue I've had, it's kind of obvious, but fuel costs. Oh my God, this is a thirsty car. Now, I know it sounds kind of obvious. You've got a G Wagen, which is 2.5 tons, and it's got the aerodynamic capabilities of, I don't know, a breeze block. The AMG version being a 5.5 litre V8, it's not exactly going to be frugal. But of course, I bought this back in 2021, just as the fuel prices started going up, and they're only now, best part of a year later, just starting to climb. So it's starting to come down. A result of this is around town, I'll be lucky to see maybe 10 or 11 miles per gallon. That's UK miles per gallon. And then on the motorway, the highest I've seen is 18 to the gallon, which is, quite frankly, eye-watering. Added to which that it runs on super unleaded as well. But no one's going to buy a G Wagen, especially an AMG version, knowing that it's going to be economical. It's just part of the course. that said, apart from that, no other issues. Had a service, you know, new air filter, all that kind of thing. Nothing to write home about. I was quite surprised, in fact. I was expecting some hidden costs and so on, especially whenever you buy a second-hand car, especially a car that is getting on for, what's this, 14 years old now. You always think there might be the odd one or two little issues with it. Okay, so let's talk about practicality. Now, it's no surprise that the G Wagen, being a fairly large 4x4, has any issues whatsoever with load capacity and cargo. Now, with the rear large opening at the back that opens to the side, you can get multiple large items in. The actual depth of the cargo space isn't particularly impressive though, this being the long wheelbase version as well. You can raise the rear seats, but that doesn't give you any more space than probably the average estate car. The benefit of the G Wagen is the actual height though. Recently I moved house and I was able to fit a double bed mattress in there, a couple of washing machines, dishwasher, all that kind of thing. You just keep stacking it up. And with the car and a 5.5 litre engine, has no problem carrying a large amount of weight. Since moving into the new house, I've also managed to carry around about 100 house bricks and also about 40 rolls of turf with no issues whatsoever. So, modifications. Being as my channel is in fact a Mercedes modification channel, I'm never going to leave this alone. However, when I bought the car, in fact, the majority of modifications which I would have done to a G Wagen have been done. This is a 2007, however, it's got the 2012 G63 AMG body kit, as well as the rear lights, and also it's got the 20-inch AMG diamond cut alloys. Altogether, it looks no different than, I guess, yeah, it's a 2012 or even 2016 model before they changed the models over. Since in my ownership, what have I done? So, initially, I got rid of the front bull bar, or what Mercedes called as a brush guard. Now, not only did it add probably a good, I guess, 30 to 40 kilos to the front, I imagine it will affect the actual aerodynamics. So I removed that and sold it on eBay, got a nice little tidy profit for that. What else have I done? I've refurbished the calipers. I've done them in G63 red, so they look good, contrasted against the Cubanite silver of the car. And I've also had the rear windows tinted. Now that's one of the things I wanted to do immediately. Reason being is that the car being best part 2 meters up, you are kind of a little bit of a goldfish bowl, as a lot of people can see everything you're doing, and there's kind of no privacy, especially when you park up. You want to be able to put your things in the boot without anyone walking past. Being as it's almost head height, they can see exactly what you're carrying in the back. So I had that done, and then there's a few other little bits and pieces just to tidy up the bodywork and whatnot. So moving forward, my next modification I want to do to the G Wagen is I want to replace the ancient NTG command unit head unit. Now my model is the second from last facelift, which on the G Wagen, which is the W463 chassis. Now, strangely enough, from 2007, it actually has a reversing camera. It's an analog one, but it's okay. But what I really want to do is actually upgrade the head unit to try and get something looking OEM. Now, instead of just getting an Alpine system that folds out and flips around and all that kind of thing, I don't want to do that. I want to keep it looking stock. Now, I have noticed on AliExpress there's a Chinese sort of knockoff version which does look, to the untrained eye, it actually looks like it's an OEM. Now, I've heard some good reviews about that. If anyone out in the comments has been in the same situation and can recommend any links to the exact model I should go for, please let me know. The latest ones have got Android Auto as far as I'm aware, so I do want to have that to update the car system. Out of the factory, this did have the old-fashioned Bluetooth module sort of handset thing, but unfortunately the previous owner appears to have removed that, so I haven't got any kind of Bluetooth connectivity at the moment. And then one final other modification I might do, I might take a look at the exhaust. As far as I'm aware, these don't have centre resonators, but I had on my previous CLS55 AMG, I had the centre resonator removed and having an X pipe fitted, which really freed up the engine sound. I can't do this on these because the actual two exhaust banks are so far apart, being as it's got a side mounted exhaust. And a side mounted exhaust is cool on any car. But perhaps I can beef it up just a little bit to give it a little bit more oomph. So final thoughts. So I say, as I mentioned, I've had the car for getting on for a year now, and I absolutely love it. I think it's fantastic. I mean, there's not many cars out there that are unique and original. All cars now these days, especially due to health and safety regulations, all basically look the same. All these Euro blobs. I mean, look, every car here virtually looks identical to the untrained eye. There's not many cars out there now that are actually unique and stick out. And this being a G55 is one of only 43 in the country, and that includes left-hand drive also. So I've owned this for a year, and I've only seen a handful of other G Wagons, let alone a G55. As I say, it's an interesting car. You've got best part 500 horsepower on tap. You've got 700 Newton meters of torque, mated to virtually no steering input whatsoever. So you can't exactly call it a driver's car. Generally what I've been doing for the last couple of years is taking all my cars to the Nürburgring, and I'm not going to be taking this even though I've got a Nürburgring sticker on the back. Reasons being is I probably would be cheaper to have a private jet fly out there than the actual fuel costs going there. And also, if I go above, I mean, I'm doing 50 miles an hour now, I wouldn't want to be going down the Nordschleife and doing a sharp turn, risk probably rolling the car. That's why you don't see many G-Wagons on there. It would be neat to do, but it would be an incredibly slow lap, even slower than my CLS one, which many people in the comment section have mentioned how slow that was. But hey ho. So how long will I be keeping this for? Unknown. I mean, the fuel prices are going down at the moment, so that does help a little bit. And to be honest, I'm not even sure what I'd replace it with. Now, I am tempted to possibly think about going down the classic route, maybe getting myself a, something like a 560 SEC and then having an old CLK as a runabout. That's one idea, who knows. But for the meanwhile, it's staying put. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and it gave you a small insight into what it's like owning a G-Wagon in the UK. If you've got any questions or comments or anything, put them in the comment section below and I'll try and answer as many as I can. Right, I'd like this video to go on for longer, but I've got to nip to the petrol station to fill up once again. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, which does actually help the channel grow. All you need to do is click the little thumbs up icon below. And if you haven't done already, consider clicking on that subscribe button, as well as the bell icon. That means you get notified as soon as uploading new videos and content. As always, thanks so much for watching and supporting the channel. Until next time, cheers. Good? Yeah.
Your one wheel is up.
That wheel was up.